Hello everybody and welcome back as we're getting ready to go into our first game of the day. This is going to be Galaxy Racer taking on Riddle. Just to reiterate, both of these teams are 8 and 4 right now in Group B. They are both just behind Fnatic Rising, who are, I believe, 10 wins in their group. So it is a very important win for them. And I'm going to turn to you, Trouble. Who are we looking at in this game? You know, where's the attention going to be for these teams?
Honestly, for me, it's going to have to be the Gooby versus Monk. I remember Gooby in the previous split as well. When he went to U Masters, he liked to play all this weird kind of stuff, which we haven't necessarily seen in Riddle. But like thinking of things such as the Ziggs, maybe he's going to be coming back. Monk likes to play aggressive. He likes to win his lane. He likes to juggle attention right there. So I think we could very well see something more towards that bottom map.
Well, it's Pix bans. The Set, the Renekton, and the Xin Zhao have been banned away, followed up by the Gwen. It's pretty much the standard. We talk about it a lot. There's a kind of a large pool of champions that we do expect to get banned, and it's kind of what you're willing to give and what you're willing to take. So we'll see what the final bans are going to be from these teams as we are on a 11-13 Trouble, just to be 11-14. We're on 11-14.
Is there anything that you've said today, reality?
No, you know what? I can say that our producer pranked me in the pre-show, but okay. I just pranked myself there. That was all me. Yeah, 11-14, by the way.
Yes, we are. So Nocturne, by that sentiment, he's not necessarily as strong as he was on the previous patch. Some teams will probably still pick him up. Some teams will still, like the kit. But the stride break changes. He's not, as crazy oppressive anymore. Not to the point where he's pretty much first picked or just always banned. Galaxy Racer, though, picking up the Viego does leave Riddle open quite a few options like that Thresh there, which they've locked in. They don't have to go their AD carry with that right now, though. They can lock in something for MC. Any kind of AP jungler that, he tends to lean on a fair bit. Or just in general, a nice AD solo laner could also be a decent option for them as well.
So Thresh being picked up here. See, they're taking their time picking up their next champ. They are just going to actually look towards a potential aggressive mid laner.
No.
Taking the LeBlanc, they go for it.
I'm just so split on the LeBlanc, man, especially when he's coming in completely blind. He can be hard counted in lanes. You could never actually get out. If you don't get any kills or you snowball, you're actually pretty much irrelevant in the tie of the game. Like if vision goes down, if you lose your tower, it's just so hard to flank and find these pockets with LeBlanc, like flank around and do that AoE damage that you want to. So it's just kind of hard. I love this. Like I literally just love the reply that Tibo went with. It's like, cool, we're just not going to let you come out of lane. Even if you do, the second you jump into a team fight, you're just locked.
It's interesting because we've seen a lot of the LeBlanc in the NLC recently, and typically it has been a counter pick. We have actually seen it into the Lissandra, and I actually believe the LeBlanc still won it. It's not as hard counter as it used to be, providing you're good at LeBlanc, but it's still a counter matchup which is weighted towards Lissandra. So we'll see how Slowkey's able to pilot this champion as the Jinx and the Varus are the final rotations here for the side of these teams. And AD's locked in, expecting to probably see the support pools trimmed down pretty heavily now.
Yeah, specifically by Riddle, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like Nautilus Leona come out in terms of bans. There's at least one of them immediately removed away. And if you're Galaxy Racer, I think you just try and pinch MC's pool, whatever you don't necessarily feel like playing against from his champion pool. Would probably be what I expect to see from Galaxy Racer. And there you go, there's at least the Nidalee coming out there. And maybe we see one ban thrown up towards Kex, but to be honest with you, MC is typically the vocal point of Riddle on a very frequent basis. So I expect them to try and put him in as an uncomfortable position as possible.
And the thing here is, like, you have already locked in the LeBlanc for slow queue, but then we know that MC really likes to play his juicy AP junglers, which is pretty easy to itemize against. I mean, for Lissandra, you can very easily go from a Banshee to Mercs or from Mercs to a Banshee, and you're pretty much Gucci. You're never going to take damage. You can protect your Jinx. You can literally stand on top of your Jinx in later on fights to come. So I think that MC might have to pivot to something more aggressive, something more AD on that side, something maybe like the Lee Sin that hasn't necessarily been banned yet. I think he's gonna, the Kindred, something that I would have my eye on. I think he might just have to play AD here. Sorry, MC.
Oh, looking towards the probably the support pickup here. We'll see what they decide to go for. The Leona is open as they actually ban the
Thresh has been
away.
picked, Hipbrain.
Jake, they've locked in Thresh.
Sorry, yeah, complete brain fart.
And great call, Trouble, for the Lee Sin, because obviously LeBlanc is there. It's a really nice pairing, and it's going to make skirmishing for Galaxy Racer a little bit difficult in the early stages. Obviously, they've got the list typically of all the OT stuff like Rek'Sai come out, Obviously, Rek'Sai just not really in the meta. So I'm curious to see what exactly Jeky's gonna take here for the jungle, unless it's just gonna be the Viego and we're gonna see the support plus a top laner locked in here. And we're already looking at Galaxy Racers mid jungle, which is very possible as Wendell's gonna lock in Blitzcrank.
Okay, seeing the Lee Sin, seeing the Varus, they are. One is melee and the other one is very mobile. I wouldn't mind seeing the Ornn coming in again from Kakan, because I think it can very well work in protecting your Jinx, getting these items later on in the game. You don't necessarily need too much attention up the top lane. So I wouldn't mind seeing him play something more tanky that can hold on its own on the side lane.
Did these guys send you the drafts or something before game was straight prophetism coming out from Trouble today, apparently. But with Ornn, he's a relatively easy to counter pick champion, so I want to see something kind of aggressive from Kex. And honestly, something like Wukong wouldn't be too terrible here. I think you've got a nice bit of mobility, a lot of disruption in the backline. And outside of the Lissandra, there's not really a whole bunch of like appeal for this Jinx to actually kind of lock down any diving targets. Instead,
hello.
Go for the GP. So more backline threat from like the cannon barrage and a little more front to back. I think I would have preferred the Wukong, but honestly, the GP does give them a nice bit of scaling towards sort of the later game stages. It means that Galaxy Race can't necessarily be too crazy disrespectful around places like chokes. So I also don't mind the GP in this context as well. I think it can be a pretty nice pickup here.
Lane bully, into the Ornn as well. We've seen a bit of revival of the Triforce build as well on GP in the top lane. So, you kind of spike a bit harder on one item than you did with the previous build, where you either go for like the Essence Reaver into Shield Bow or something, which would obviously give you a great 2-item spike. But Triforce just gives you such good scrapping capability, and I think it's going to be on these junglers. We need to track MCE and Jakey and see how they kind of set up, because LeBlanc Lee Sin, great kind of jungle mid duo, but you've got the Lissandra that's going to be heavily shoving the LeBlanc in, and that's kind of what I want to keep my eyes on, how these junglers are going to be able to influence the map. Anyway, I think it's time for us to pass it over to our casters at Scoundrel and Gulborg. There we go, to break the game down. Over to you guys.
I guess.
Thank you very much, Jake. Yeah, do you know what? We're going to let it slide. We're going to let it slide.
In Discord.
I'm not muted on Google House, but I'm muted on Discord. Thank you, Gulborg. Yes, we're ready to get into game. Excited because I haven't got to cast a Gulborg, I believe, all season.
I think it's now I get the last European Masters. Like, it's been so long. I can't remember the last time we actually had a cast together.
It has been quite a while. By the way, you've gone back towards the beard. You've gone back towards the bearded Gulborg.
I know.
Are you going to shave it off again? Like,
honestly,
what's
it's like I wake up every day and you're just like, do I want this? Do I want that? I'm not too sure. I'm so bipolar about my options about how I want to look. So
10 years younger than me, and you can grow a really nice beard, and I just can't.
Thank you so much. No, you look so handsome. Don't worry about it.
Thanks, mate. I'll take it. Right. Should we jump into this game? Shall we talk a little bit about the matchup that we've got coming our way? Galaxy Racer versus Riddle. I looked at the next match for a second. Galaxy Racer versus Riddle. This is actually, I think, a relatively close affair. It's reflected in the standings. Of course, the Danish man in you will always go for Riddle. But is there, apart from Denmark, is there any reason you've chosen Riddle here? What's the ideology? What's the thought process behind this Riddle choice for you over Galaxy Racer?
I'm honestly quite surprised you guys haven't gone with Riddle, just because they're on a 3-game winning streak. Like, they've beaten out both academy teams in a row, and we talk a lot about, okay, there's been a few academy killers, but no one has beat both of them. Riddle has been the only team to do that. And I think Riddle is from the form they came from, has just looked exponentially stronger in terms of how they started in this split and how what they're looking like now. So to me, it's not only just about Guppy, it's how the entire team has actually functioned and how they played in this meta and how it kind of suits them.
Where's the strength from Riddle? What is there a particular point on that roster that you think is kind of like the driving force behind their success, or do you think it's just that the roster as a whole is really good? Because there was a lot of criticism levied towards Slowq, I think, towards the start of the season, but he's seemingly improving, whereas obviously Gooby and PlayStation have always been fantastic, and MC has been standout too. But what do you think? Where does the strength come from this roster?
I honestly feel like it's so flexible. Like, it switches up a lot. There's times where Gooby can be the star player, but for example, Kex, where they swapped in mid and he was playing Wukong against Febevin, had like two or three solo kills against them, I believe. It is honestly the fact that there's different times where these guys from Riddle are allowed to step up and be the carry. We have seen MC on the Nidalee as well, or we have seen MC on other champions where he's just been able to take over games as well. And that was something I thought, he was not very good at doing that in the beginning either. And just, to hammer how important this first game is as well for Riddle, as we already talked about. They had such a bad start. They've already lost out to Galaxy Racer once. There's only 3 spots for playoffs, and right now they're tied with Galaxy Racer, and they don't have the head-to-head. They are down a game, so they need to win today to go even. If they lose to Galaxy Racer now, playoffs just becomes even more tough for them if Nordavind starts picking up wins again.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very tense race in Group B right now, as you've mentioned. And looking at the drafts, got some real curveball drafts actually coming through here from both these teams. Lissandra and Blitzcrank for Galaxy Racer. We're heading into game now, Gulbug, so we'll get some chance to talk about this. We haven't had as much time to focus on Galaxy Racer, so let's take this first few minutes to talk through this draft. What do you see this draft achieving? Like, what's the point of this draft? Like, where are the win conditions? Is it just pure control for the Jinx in team fights? You get towards the later game and you just kind of win?
It honestly quite is here, and the Lissandra obviously is picked into a blind pick LeBlanc. We've seen this loads of times already, where a lot of teams, specifically the Eastern team, have started playing a lot of LeBlanc in the LPL, and then Lissandra just kind of come up. If you take a look at Lissandra's global match history, I think the past 15 games has only been against LeBlanc. This is the only time this champion is picked.
It used to be, that was the case ages ago as well. When LeBlanc was super meta, was it like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a bit more? Yeah. That's when Lissandra was being picked up a lot as well. It's so interesting with League of Legends meta that sometimes that when you just have a champion come through, that direct counter immediately becomes the meta as well. And it's interesting because we haven't seen much Lissandra for, before this rise of LeBlanc for a very long time.
I think it also comes down to the fact that, you can have a skilled player play LeBlanc, and you can play against a player who's less skillful than you. But as soon as they're playing Lissandra into LeBlanc, that matchup just becomes so goddamn easy. You're playing with Aftershock. It's almost near impossible making mistakes. And I thought, I looked at the global win rate for LeBlanc into Lissandra. It's only 37%. Like, it's such a hard matchup for LeBlanc.
Yeah, I think Lissandra's kit is specifically designed to shut down the mobility of LeBlanc as well. But we have this Blitzcrank too. Not something that we see a huge amount of either. I think some people do like to pick it into Thresh, I guess for a similar reason that you might pick a Nautilus into Thresh. You just have that ability to engage that Thresh can sometimes feel a little bit awkward dealing with. So yeah, we're going to see how this Blitzcrank works out for Wendell, and Wendell has played a lot of Blitzcrank in his career, I believe. It's one of those picks that he is more likely to want to pick up and play. So I'm kind of interested to see how this one fits into this comp for Galaxy Racer Gulbug.
It's just such a support thing to do as well. It's like, oh, I wanted to play Thresh, but the enemy picked Thresh. All right, I'm just going to play either Nautilus or Blitzcrank then, and hit more hooks than him. But I think stylistically together with the Jinx, it can be a bit difficult. Jinx is a champion that loves playing together with Thresh because of the Dark Passage and the ability to kind of re-enable where you're standing with your positioning. Now with Blitzcrank though, you only get the engage tool. As soon as you miss that hook as Vendel, you're essentially useless. So you want to make every hook count because that's a 16-second cooldown. If you miss that, that's all the pressure in the lane over to Riddle.
Just got to be very careful with that Jinx and a Blitzcrank. As you said, it's not a particularly forgiving support pick for the Jinx. It's just the main thing that Jinx often needs, being such a low mobility pick. Let's talk a little bit about the Riddle comp then. Feels very pick orientated, like with the Thresh, the LeBlanc, the Varus. Is this kind of like we get onto an objective first, and if you face check us, we just have that pure pick potential of like picking off individual targets before things even start? Although talk about that in just a moment, because Vendelbo's looking for the engage. He flashes, knocks up, pulls Gooby back in. First blood goes over to Monk, and the stray hook onto Vendelbo will get nothing from it. Beautiful gank there from Shaky, and honestly, the Blitzcrank pick is paying off.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I thought Flay with his position should probably have been a bit further back to have Lantern ready for Gooby. Jungler was pathing down towards the bot side of the map, so I think they should have had that intel, but they just didn't. So Gooby has to force his life for that one, even though he was the one furthest behind. But that's kind of the matchup and the nature of the Thresh. you want to be able to play your style where you kind of just, you know, a safe bot or a kind of an enchanter with an extra kit where you just max the Dark Passage for maximum safety of your AD carry. But you know what, Scoundrel, to go back to what you talked about, how this Riddle composition functions, you could look at it in a vacuum and say, oh, you want to be able to just scale up with the champions you have here, go for some skirmishes with the LeBlanc, but specifically against the Galaxy Racer composition, it can be really hard to teamfight. I think essentially your goal right now for this game, for Riddle, is that you need to get a point in time in this game where you never have to teamfight, but where you are so strong with your items that you can poke them out with Gooby's arrows, where you have Kex who can create space between them. I don't think much going to happen here. And where you have Slowq who's just going to be Wing forward, trying to get some damage down and get out immediately. Because in a straight up teamfight scenario, if they just go even, the game does become harder or easier for Galaxy Racer to execute on. They have the On, they have the mobility or the CC peel with Lissandra, and they have pick potential with Vendelbow and the execute of Jakey. So for Riddle, I actually say that when you move towards this mid game, you need to be very careful how you play these fights. You need to make sure that you're creating enough ground between you and your opponent before you get caught in a team fight that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, I feel like it is going to be the case of just kind of getting as much damage down before the full-on 5v5 opens up. And they do have the potential to do that. You know, you've got the Gangplank, you've got the LeBlanc who can kind of get in and get out as long as she's being aware of where the Lissandra is. You have obviously the Varus too. So definitely a lot of things that work in favor of Riddle. But if they get drawn into these big, brawly 5v5 team fights, you can only help but think that Galaxy Racer would likely come out on top if they're able to play their team fights correctly. I did see that Jakey did try to help Kakan look for a good reset, but honestly, very impressive stuff from Kex. Was able to freeze the lane very efficiently just outside his turret, despite the pressure from Jakey, despite Kakan trying to shove him back towards the turret as well. So, you know, Kex pretty happy. It's a relatively easy matchup, I'd say, for Gangplank in the top lane. So
yes.
he's not exactly finding it difficult, but a good early laning phase right now for Kex has put him about 15 CS in the lead, and that'll likely continue to extend.
And I also think that's kind of the goal here for Galaxy Racer. Riddle, though.
Brilliant engage. Nice in from Lee Sin. MC will pick up the kill, and that is an immediate turn from PlayStation. Not exactly sure. That's the teleport that you wanted, Tibor, and he will know exactly to back off. And that'll be just giving up the life for Monk. It was a 1-for-1. Oh, sorry, a 1-for-1 in terms of bot lane ganks overall, but it's a return kill, realistically, here for Riddle.
Yeah, luckily Tipa won't lose too much. The Blank doesn't do the best of job to push in waves before she's got her items. But that is the TP deficit you have now. Slowq opted into not going for it. He knew that wasn't the fight they wanted to take. So now for Riddle, if a fight breaks out or they want to skirmish around a specific area where they created fog of war, well, they can always have the mana advantage with Slowq and his TP potential.
Let's see what's again. It was basically the exact same setup that Galaxy Racer did for their initial kill on to Gooby. They did the same thing realistically with the Thresh, just ran in, found the engage. You can see PlayStation now being a little aggressive with that Hex Flash. God Monk or Monk not going to commit too hard to this engage, though, just trying to farm where he can.
Yeah, and MC is in the area. Remember, he just hit level 6, so he does have that Dragon Rage available, but they finally opt in for the reset. But Monk not feeling confident in a position to just hard shove it, so Gooby and PlayStation, they won't actually lose too much. And you can actually see Gooby is the only one moving down towards this bot lane turret, while the rest of them, MC, PlayStation, they're moving up to mid lane here, where Vendel and Jakey's already waiting around.
Oh, found the initial engage here. Don't quite manage to lock Slowq down, though. That Lissandra would have been very helpful off the back of that little engage, but as you said, does enough to pressure Slowq out of that lane and will force him to go back.
Yeah, he might just be forced to TP back here. They can still opt in for skirmishes here if Jakey oversteps, but remember, Vendel's still in the area to hit one of these hooks, and you can already see Kakan, with the priority he gained towards the top side of the map, moved down as well. So they'll have to just cancel the skirmish and move back to an not per se even lane state. PlayStation, oh, I thought he was going to go for Jakey or T-Bot there.
And you can see just a little bit of setup around this river right now, and that's going to be a pull-in straight setup for Jakey. Tibor does have that ultimate available. Here comes Super Mega Death Rocket, doesn't land, but MC's already dead. The Ornhorn slaps down onto Thresh. A double kill picked up for Jakey. And that'll be a nice little boost to Viego in the jungle.
I'm not too sure what MC's decision-making was there, or the calls for Riddle, but diving in on towards Alessandra with the lockdown, with the hook from Vendel, and with the execute of Jakey, I just feel like that's a lost skirmish before you even started. So good punish there from Galaxy Racer, who essentially didn't opt into anything. They just wanted to clear some vision, but Riddle, they were having none of that, and they paid the price.
Gonna get a blue side invade here, so just gonna be a little more aggressive now, Galaxy Racer, feeling confident off the back of that early engage. And Jakey has been the one that's driving this team forward right now. Has to be a little careful, though. Could get caught out by MC as he's able to force his way back towards his own top bot side, tier 1, taken down very low in the meantime. But it is going to be an attempted tower dive. I mean, it looks like they have the advantage to do so. Great pull from Vendelbo. I mean, I can't see what's going on, but Jakey picked up the kill. And that's crazy. What a turnaround from Galaxy Racer.
Yeah, there we go once again, and the LeBlanc put down as well. Not only is he going to be losing his life there, he's also going to be losing a ton of resources in the mid lane at the same time. And there we go, Trouble. She mentioned it a bit on the desk, this blind pick LeBlanc. And I agree with her. It is so greedy to blind pick when Lissandra is up, because it is so easy to punish a pick that is so skirmish reliant, so reliant of getting ahead in the laning phase, like the LeBlanc. I like the idea here in the beginning from MC, but Gooby, he's been spending too much time trying to take down Monk. As soon as the jump comes in from slow queue, Vendel is there, ready to take him down, and they just don't have the minion waste right here for a dive. It is not timed with it. So once again, skirmish going wrong from Riddle in something they're opting into. Once again, it's their own decision making that's making them pay with their life.
Galaxy Racer will be super happy with this start, especially given the scaling nature of their composition as well. You know, getting a kind of advantage this early on, especially when you've got the power in the late game of the Jinx, of the Lissandra, even the Viego, and obviously we know how beefy Ornn can get, as well as those Ornn item upgrades that are ever so useful. Just getting an advantage early on makes it that much more difficult for Riddle to kind of take the edge off here.
Yeah, you're completely right about it. Luckily for Riddle, though, they did get the first objective in the Drake, so they don't want to worry about too much of Galaxy Racer stacking here. But in terms of fighting for a potential Rift Herald, even the top side of the map is not looking too good from the side of Riddle. So I would love to see Galaxy Racer just try and maximize their potential here. Try to get as many objectives you can here in the early game. Remember, this is 11.14, where turrets, they have been buffed. They give more gold, 550 to the tier 2 turrets. So if you're able to open up a side lane and continue with the second Herald push, that just means even more. So I'd love to see them get the Rift Herald, get the priority in the mid lane with the Lissandra for T-Ball here, and then just start moving your pieces around the map. Make sure to create pressure that Riddle cannot respond to.
Is this now going to be the case of Galaxy Racer just essentially trying to force their way through objectives at this point? Just as you said, like, force Riddle into a situation where they have to answer, but you know that you have the edge. I mean, we talk a lot about team comps, we talk a lot about objective setup, like which team is best suited to set up on the objective and have that advantage of being there and forcing the enemy to face check them. Which team do you think has that edge? Because I've heard there's a lot of people that kind of like talk about poke comps having the edge, because you know that, for instance, that Galaxy Racer are going to have to face check you, so you can just slap them with arrows over and over again, slap them with barrels. But does Galaxy Racer benefit from getting the setup? You know, they have that immediate engage, they have the Blitzcrank hook. It feels like this is going to be a bit of a battle to just see who can get set up on these objectives first. I mean, because either team has edge when they're able to do that.
Of course, but I mean, I may have to answer your question in a bit. No, it looks like they're just going to peel off it. And I do say you're right. And the poke composition, they do benefit of being on the objective first. In a vacuum, yes. But this time around, you're playing into an Ornn. And there's basically no limit to how long that range is going to be if you're fighting around Drake, for example. If you're clumped up in a pit, it's easy for Lissandra to get access. It's easy for Kakan on towards the Ornn to get access. So right now, what you're doing as Riddle, you just want to try to slow the game down as much. Whoa, okay. I think Kex is all right no matter what here, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, Kex has to be a little careful, actually. Kakan starting to slap him with the hammer. Kex should be able to escape this one, though. Kakan has essentially used the majority of his burst here. I think Kex, yeah, he'll be able to get out relatively easily. Won't be able to make that tower dive happen, and does manage to save the tower just about also.
Oh, it's not done yet, Scoundrel. MC making his way into the vicinity. Jakey's around as well, so if any skirmishes were to arise, they could go for a bait, but they decide to just peel off it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to at this point. Both top laners went hell for leather on the back of that engage. Doesn't quite manage to pick up that first tower of the game, though, for Kext, as you can see. It is a sliver of HP on that tower, though. So, you know, a simple little tap and that top lane tier 1 will drop to the floor. Something that a Galaxy Racer will have to think about, because that'll be a nice injection of gold for the Riddle roster if they're able to pick that up over Galaxy Racer now. And, you know, committing resources to that side of the map may not be optimal for Galaxy Racer, so they need to kind of think about what they want to do with that tower. Are they going to be able to defend it as much as they would have liked? And it was always going to be a tower dive risk as well to think about with the Ornn on that top side of the map.
Well, now that plates have fallen, I think it's just a matter of time before Kext is going to be able to push in a wave and just give that a little auto attack. There's still a little window before the Call of the Forge Guard is up and available again for Kakan. So that pressure for Kext to die with no flash shot shouldn't really be there just yet. And obviously from the side of Galaxy Racer, the mid lane turret is... Yeah, there you go. But Kakan is fairly low as well.
He's got that 1v1 potential versus Kakan now. I mean, Kakan has to be careful, as you can see. But you know, you literally said it. It's a little tap, a little love tap to the tower, and it just drops down, and that's the first tower of the game going the way of Riddle.
Yeah, there we go. And obviously, mid lane turret from Riddle quite low as well, just because of the Rift L we saw before from Galaxy Racer. I feel like there was a point in time where they could have tried and used more pressure down towards the bottom lane of the map, because Riddle's bot lane is pushed quite far forward all the time, and it should have been decently easy for you to get some prio. And speaking of prio, it seems like there's a little skirmish here.
Ooh, it's a shutdown coming through from MC. The Super Mega Death Rocket does land, and in the meantime, they are going to take over double kill onto Tibor. And also on the top side of the map, you can see Kex just forcing Kakan away, stopping any potential teleport plays coming through. And now God Monk has to be careful. Monk now desperately trying to buy some time. There is a teleport finally coming through. Wait a second. What? Oh my God, he got executed. Gooby manages to pick up the kill. Will use the Call of the Forge God to try and pick it up in return, and Kakan will find that kill back. But Kex in the meantime has been given free time on this top lane tier 2 to take it down.
I mean, Riddle completely just forgot to dive. It's like you need minions. I mean, you're not just going to do that on the tower. You're quite lucky Monk didn't flash earlier to get the kill on towards PlayStation. That could have been an entire different situation. But here we get it again. The replay up towards the mid lane, where it seemed like they caught Jakey a bit off guard. And then after that, it should have been quite easy for them to move down as well to try to take the turret. But once again, mid lane or minions are just missing here. Hook doesn't connect, Flay not walking forward, TP comes through, so they start getting anxious. And then Monk, if he had gotten that reset, if he had gotten the movement speed to dodge the arrow, that might potentially have been another kill for him. So they're quite lucky on the side of Riddle, and once again, not as stable or consistent in their play so far.
But they have managed to edge out a small gold lead here. So they've kind of turned this game around. A probably sort of 3k gold swing now back into their favor, and they announced this going to be a minor gold lead. The hook from Wenderbo does not land, but they are just trying to clear out this mid lane wave as best they can. Don't want to let that drop too easily. We have another dragon spawning in around 40 seconds. This is the Infernal Soul. So it is a relatively important dragon and an important soul, especially for Riddle. Like, if Riddle can get their hands on the Infernal Soul, it is a huge win condition for their team comp. And I think they'll be looking to invest resources in snowballing that as quickly as possible against Galaxy Racer's side of the team.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that as well, Excandro, because we already talked about the comp of Galaxy Racer. It's easier to execute. It should be easier for them to follow the curve with their composition and just stay even in items. But the fact he can get more resistance, Gooby.
Oh, Gooby, he's just dead. No flash, easy bait for Wendell, and they should pick up another kill maybe here with PlayStation just being a little overextended, but he'll be able to back off relatively nicely. But in the meantime, Slowq has been pushing in this side lane, so executing a little bit of a split push here for Riddle. They will trade one kill for a tower, and realistically, you take those every day.
Yeah, you see, 600 gold from a turret. That's 2 kills for Slowq. But the problem is that I don't understand how there's no vision up here for Riddle right now. That should have been quite easy if they wanted to establish a bit of a contest for that Infernal Drake, but they just never got to that point. PlayStation walking around in the jungle, not sure what he was doing. But Gooby left alone to drive with no vision to cover him, really. So maybe you can argue he was overextended. You can argue it was miscommunication. Either way, Galaxy Racer takes the punish, they find the kill, and they get an Infernal Drake for themselves.
And that will delay that Drake Soul that we just talked about. Like, it is a big win condition right now for Riddle. And delaying it even further now means either, you know, look, if Riddle suddenly starts taking control of the dragons, it's another 3 dragons before that soul becomes a reality for them. You know, for Galaxy Racer, buying time is great for a Jinx. Buying time is great for an Ornn, like getting towards those ornament upgrades. Viego loves that kind of time as well. And Lissandra doesn't scale half badly in these teamfight situations too. So any extra time that you can give yourself before that soul becomes a reality is great for this Riddle comp. But I love what Riddle are doing now. Sorry, for Galaxy Racer comp. I love what Riddle are doing now. They're just trying to group up and create some kind of advantage. They're grouping up and pressuring up that mid lane tier 1. Now, Kakan will have to be careful here. Kex looking for the 1v1. Gonna flash away. That's the ultimate coming through. Should be able to pick up the kill, and Kex will take down Kakan. I'm not really sure how Kakan got locked into that engage, really. He's been losing that all game. You don't want to take the 1v1 versus the Gangplank right now.
Solo Bolo for the Kex, coming in hard. There we go. And there they continue the siege once again up in the mid lane here. And I think this is the correct play from Riddle. Every time you want to create a skirmish, you do it away from the LeBlanc, or the Lissandra rather, just because there's so much potential in her kit to stop what you want to do. You have so much kit pick potential as well from the side of Riddle. If you just push in mid, if you move around with MC, you'll be doing a great job. I wish MC was actually part of that kill for Kex just beforehand as well, just because MC has the lead in the jungle now over Jakey, and I want him to accelerate that before it just becomes too useless. Because if we get to a later game into the later game where Lissandra will just ult you as soon as you jump in as the least in, you're just not going to be able to do anything. So right now is some of the most important parts for MC, because he wants to exponentially grow the potential lead you can get on the side of Riddle.
Well, let me ask you a question then, Gulborg. What is it that how is it that he can do that? Like, what, now we've lost those tier 1 towers, or the most of the tier 1 towers. You know, the easier objectives to kind of group up and fight around are becoming a little bit more slim. How does MC and realistically Riddle as a whole go around and go about just forcing their advantage, trying to gain a significant edge now over Galaxy Racer with the small gold lead that they've picked up?
It's going to take some time, but what realistically you want to do at first, you want to get pressure in set lane. It can either be through Kex, or it can be through Gooby when they move around mid lane as a 3-man advantage with MC's there. Then you want to use that pressure when your enemy is too busy clearing a wave to just get some vision, clear out the vision that Galaxy Racer has laid defensively. Then you go back and clear one more wave, and then you can move down towards Kex. Then you can make sure that whatever pressure Kex has, you can play off, because he'll always have that in this. You can see he's already gone for the Lord Dominic's regard. Trinity Force is already there, and he's only going to continue to scale. He's always going to be a reliable force for you on the side of Riddle. So whatever what you want to do as MC right now is just, you know, be sure you can shadow him, be sure you can play off the leads you're able to get with the Gangplank, and make sure that he's going to stay all right. Because look at the gold lead.
Oh, that is 3,000 almost in favor of Kex over Kakan. I mean, Kakan, he's just not respecting Kex right now, like pushing up very far. He can't take these 1v1s. You know that he knows that he can't. And Kex is such a force for Riddle in this side lane right now. It was a really great pick to kind of round this draft out. And Khan has to be on wave clear duties. And that then buys in the question for Galaxy Racer. Like, they clearly want a team fight, but right now they're losing too much pressure in the side lanes. If they try to force a team fight and it doesn't go well on the first try, you could be losing inhibitor turrets before you know it.
Yeah,
so this is
oh, sorry, go on.
No, go.
I was going to say, you also have a lot of pick potential to still keep that alive when Kex is not there, because he's always in a side lane, right? So there's still the Blitzcrank hook, there's still the Lissandra ultimate. So there's still some of these tools in your arsenal to just blow up a target immediately if you get onto them, like we saw with Gooby in the mid lane just a few minutes ago.
Do you think that Riddle will learn, though? Like, do you think that those might become a bit few and far between with how Riddle will start to adapt to kind of respecting the Blitzcrank a little bit more often? Good vision control seems like a good answer for Riddle, right? Like, just if you have good, solid vision control of your own jungle especially, feels like it's going to be a bit more difficult for Galaxy Racer to execute on those pick-orientated engages. It looks like we've got a shove on the top side from Slowq and from... No, just Slowq right now. Kex is actually in the mid lane. We have the engage coming through. Vendelbo taken low. Leeson jumps in. MC does a load of damage, but gets rooted up, as you said, and Shutdown comes through. And it's going to be the Ornhorn. That's going to be huge if he manages to hit it, but he doesn't because the play is big from PlayStation. But in the meantime, they'll be able to pick up 2 kills. It'll be another pick-off for Jakey, who has been popping off on Viego in these team fights. And in the meantime, it is a 1-for-2 overall Super Mega Death Rocket to just try and stop the engage. And Gooby taken down to a sliver of HP. This has all been for the setup on that Drake fight, which right now, the man advantage lies for Galaxy Racer, and I'm not sure that Riddle want this fight.
No, I don't think they will. That's just going to be the Infernal Soul once again going over to Galaxy Racer, putting them on the soul point here. And Scoundrel, it goes down to Riddle kind of misplaying that composition right there. We talked about it. You don't want to go in a full-blown team fight against them. You don't want as a Lee Sin just to dive in, because that's not what your champion is going to be able to do. You're just going to get locked up, as we saw in the replay. You want to be able to play off the extended team fights. You want to be able to just poke out, because that was a Keck onto Vendel. That's the arrow. Now back off. You have the priority. You can push in mid again, and then you can keep the poke up. But MC, he goes too far forward. And then still, look at the poke coming out. They're still able to get kills just from the poke. Goopy's area onto Vendel, he goes down as well. And that's the poke you want to play around. You want to wait for Slowq to join the fight. You want to wait to just play these extended fights where you're not going into a full-blown team fight, because if you do that, Galaxy Racer is just going to win it.
And you mentioned it. You said, like, Lee Sin is going to become useless in straight up 5v5 team fights. He jumps in looking for a kick. He just gets Lissandra ultimate. What happened in that team fight? He just got ulted and almost did nothing. Was essentially a free reset for Monk. And that is something that I think works well for the Galaxy Racer comp. Lissandra acts as that reset magnet for Monk. Like, if she ults someone trying to jump into the fight and Monk even gets a tap on them, that's when Jinx goes God mode. That's when Jinx starts to ramp up and starts to take over these team fights. And that's why I think you have to be a little careful of if you are Riddle. Wendell looking for the hook, actually finds it onto PlayStation here. They may even land the route they do, and PlayStation goes down. The pick potential, you said it. Who cares about split push when you have an absolute monster blitzcrank in the form of Vendelbo? And they do manage to find a relatively good pick, which may allow them to set up for this Baron.
Yeah, Flay knows what he just did there. He's probably saying in communication, sorry guys, I entered, because that was a blitzcrank that was locked down by the chains of corruption, and he thought he could go for a hook, and not knowing that obviously he would get hooked himself. So in hindsight, he knew exactly what he did and why it was a mistake. But that's what you need to be worried about as Riddle. You can't play traditional team fight League of Legends. This comp you have drafted for yourself, it is hard, because it's no longer just about going in and pressing all your buttons. It's about being patient. It's about hitting your spells and then creating ground between you and your enemy, like you can do with the Gangplank Kick, like you can do with the Dark Passage with the Lantern, like you can do with the mobility of LeBlanc. You want to kind of bounce Galaxy Racer about for team fights to wait. Oh no.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, indeed. And it is going to be Gooby locked up. I mean, the Lantern's bait. The Lantern is bait, and he took it anyway. He had no other option. He was caught between a rock and a hard place. And now PlayStation's going to drop. Jakey gets a double kill. What a monster this man has been in the jungle for Galaxy Racer this time. And he has been really sort of accelerating these mid-game team fights and skirmishes. And now you can see the Galaxy Racer keen to step up towards that Baron and look for the Baron take, which should allow them to push this game even further out of reach of Riddle.
That's the thing. Keck still does not have the cannon barrage, but if he can get some good Kecks down, then this might be a good enough time for him to get in for MC to steal the Baron. We'll see. The play starts now.
Yeah, it's very close. I mean, MC, you always have that risk of a Baron steal coming through, and no one is looking to stop him from getting into the pit, as you said. It's a lot of damage coming out. That's going to be the first kill. Slowq, Baron doing so much work. I mean, Galaxy Racer are not committing to the play here. They're just not committing to a play. They were split between everywhere on this fight, and now Jakey finally gets into the middle of it. Godmonk has finally picked up the reset too. This might allow them to start and be, oh, he gets hooked. He gets hooked. This is going to be a massive turnaround if Jakey can't do anything about it, and he can't by the looks of it. Jakey absolutely slaughtered. And honestly, watching Galaxy Racer be completely unable to decide how to play that team fight was just painful.
Listen, that is also just Kex that is 1v9. He's the only one in Riddle actually playing the composition how it's supposed to do with the Kex he had there. Slowq coming in to help as well with the ground they create. And there you saw, because they know they were the man disadvantage, they didn't just want to go in full-blown teamfight style. They knew they had to play one ability at a time. And Kex, Jesus, you really are your team savior until we kind of just get there from the beginning with PlayStation being a bit too forward. Vendelbo goes forward, gets taken down by Slowq due to the poke he's already taken. Now Kex finding even more barrels to get the damage done. Look at this. He is playing this team fight correctly. This is how Riddle's composition is supposed to function. Yes, he goes a bit too far forward, but at this point in time, with the members respawning from Riddle, it's enough for them to be able to take the fight. So Kex, once again, completely 1v9 for Riddle.
But Galaxy Racer should have committed to one way or the other. They were like, do we take Baron? Do we enforce the fight? Like 3 of them jumped off on like 20% HP to try and force the fight. 3 of them kind of walked and still continued to keep Baron alive. Like either you just say you're going to flip it at Baron or you go for the fight. And now it's Vendelbo caught off. He just gets one shot. Absolutely slaughtered by Kex. And now the rest of Galaxy Racer are in shambles. They're taken extremely low. Monk can't even get into the fight. Kex is just absolutely blowing them to smithereens. A double kill. A double kill for Gooby. Galaxy Racer have fallen apart at the seams.
And there we go. They played around with the ground. Finally, they hit the chains of corruption to get the pick potential they have in their composition. And then once again, Kex with these barrels, the poke you get from Gooby, able to just completely split the team fight for Galaxy Racer and make sure they're not able to pilot their composition. This is beautiful. And it seems like Riddle, finally, 28 minutes into the game, have woken up.
I think they finally got an indication about how those team fights should be played. It only took the Baron play to kind of see that, but let's have a look here again. It's just that catch on to Vendelbo that started it off.
It definitely is. And there you see, they can't walk forward there. Monk even gets rooted by the chains as well. Jakey jumps in, but there's too much zoning potential. You see the barrel just waiting around there. You see the poke from Gooby, how much damage that does. And Kakan, he's just caught on the other end of the fight. He's not able to peel for Monk. He's not able to make sure that T-Ball got away into the team fight. So Galaxy Racer, from a point in time, you can look at this goal graph where they're actually ahead and dictating the pace of the game. They've completely lost the grasp of it, and now it's all on Riddle.
Riddle have got a pretty serious gold advantage to work with now, bordering on 10k. It's very significant. A lot of that primarily coming through the advantage that Kex has on the top side of the map. And as you said, Kex has been the savior of this game for Riddle, has really just played these team fights excellently, has kind of set his team up for success. And now this Baron proving very difficult for Galaxy Racer to know how to deal with. I mean, Galaxy Racer have got a lot of gold invested in Monk here. That could be one way that they look for a win condition. Jakey has got a significant amount of gold in his back pocket as well. So these guys are bordering those points in the game where they start to become insanely strong. But you really feel like one item more for Jinx, maybe one item more for Jakey, and that's where things will start to become much easier for them in these team fights. But even them, Gangplank doesn't scale badly. In fact, he's one of the best scaling champions in the game, and you always have to be worried about how Jakey can look to play these team fights. If you can't find that initial engage, if you can't find that one initial pick that you need to get the Jinx rolling, it might be too difficult for you to actually execute on these team fights properly.
Yeah, you're completely right, Excadrill. Everything you said there, completely right. And then you move on to the side of Riddle and you take a look at them and you say, all right, they've actually still made a lot of mistakes. Their composition, it's still hard to pilot. So yes, while Galaxy Racer is close to 9,000 gold down, Riddle still need to make sure they do not drop the ball. But Kakan, he's going a bit too far forward.
Yeah, he is. And he gets, oh, that's a really good stopwatch for the time being, though. He'll be straight on top of the trap. The shutdown comes through from Jakey, and Jakey can actually possess him and pick up that Gangplank, looking for a barrel, looking for a way to just kind of slow them down. Jakey keen to take the fight right now. He gets pulled straight in, though, taken down low. PlayStation picks up the kill. Way too aggressive from the jungler from Galaxy Racer. He smelled blood in the water, but the Sharks got him first. Riddle will back off very happily now with taking 1-for-1 overall when it could have been so much better for Galaxy Racer.
It most certainly could have been, but you still see what I'm talking about there. Riddle, they're still making mistakes. They're still overforcing. They're still getting caught sometimes. And that is what Galaxy Racer can rely on. They are stuck in towards their own base, and that's fine because Riddle, of course, they have a siege composition. But if you catch a member off guard, if you're able to create a man advantage, if you get the hook from Vendel, they should just be locked down entirely. You get the chompers from Jinx, you get the CC from Lissandra. So every member of Riddle right now cannot stay out of focus. PlayStation needs to be 24/7 on top of Gooby. We've seen so many times where Gooby has just been isolated, or even in this point in time. If Kex is going for aggressive play like this, have someone shadow him. And then you can see his team, they are trying to shadow him, but he's just a bit too far forward, and it's easier for Galaxy Racer to get in here with the blast gun. Yes, you have the stopwatch, but the chompers, they're just going to pop immediately on you as soon as you're done. And then you kind of talk about the overextension here yourself. Vendel walking forward, they're waiting here, and it seems like Slowkey was about to go down, but he does have the stopwatch. Jakey going too far forward alone, and they don't get to focus down the single member target that they wanted to.
I've got the next dragon spawning relatively soon, as well as the Baron. Now, this is obviously something that Galaxy Racer are going to want to try and put themselves in the fight for. An Infernal Soul denial is a huge deal against this Riddle comp. Nice pull onto Shaky here. You can see the Call of the Forge God immediately comes out. Kex won't be able to get locked up by it. It'll dodge away from it, and the stopwatch is already there, buying time for T-Ball to get out of the fight, forced to flash away. You can see Slowq on the sidelines just trying to do what he can to pressure out any stragglers on the side of these team fights. We'll see Shaky be able to heal himself back up off this red buff. And it looks like mid lane priority is going to be the name of the game here for Galaxy Racer. Just want to try and threaten that mid lane, try and put some pressure down whilst that dragon is on the border of spawning.
Yeah, but it seems like they're just going to move forward here. The Drake is still waiting for a while, as you said yourself, but they can get themselves into a bit of a choke point here where they can get caught by the poke of Riddle if they are not careful. Riddle at the same time, though, have forced them away from the wave. And it seems like they just need to play this extended team fight. Remember that for Riddle, don't overcommit.
Oh, Vendel went for the Hex Flash, but couldn't quite find the pull. You can see they just can't get in the fight without that Call of the Forge God. That poke is really, really slapping hard into them. Kakan taken down to a sliver of HP here. We're going to have to find some time to build that back up, but it's going to be the Baron started up right now for Galaxy Racer. That Call of the Forge God is shortly available and will be able to use to engage the fight. Everybody walking directly into them. You need to either burn this down or go for the fight. Burn it down or go for the fight. Burn it down or go for the fight. Which one's it going to be? As they get into the pit, they're going to look to burn it down, and it will be Shaky taking the Baron here, but they have to win the fight off the back of this. Otherwise, they're going to straight up lose. And in the meantime, God, Monk on the backline, unable to find the first reset, and the fight is going well in favor of the Riddle side. They're able to pick it up. The shutdown is there, but the resets won't mean anything as he's on 2 HP in the meantime. Shaky trying to do what he can, but it will not be enough, and Kakan will eventually drop. Surely, this is the end of the game for Riddle. They make the wrong choice at the Baron pit, and Riddle take them out.
Yeah, and it seemed like Riddle finally, once again, remember, it was from Kex that got them back into the game from that Baron call of Galaxy Racer. Galaxy Racer, they had this game in the bag, but once Kex got his team elite, once they were able to poke them down before they could be first on the objective from the barrel, from the mobility of Slowq and the damage, they were able to take it. Riddle, it was not a convincing win by any means from the early game, but they remember how to pilot their composition, and they get the first win of the day.
And I think Galaxy Racer just made a little error in the Baron pit right there. We talked a lot about getting the first team to be the team that gets set up on the objective. The value for Galaxy Racer setting up on the objective is you pull the trigger with the Ornhorn and just go for it. But Galaxy Racer, once again, 2 times in a row was split between what they wanted to do and an objective setup. They went for the burn on the Baron. Baron did a lot of the work. Not only did the Baron pit do a lot of the work, but the Baron itself did a lot of the work for Galaxy Racer. But the Baron pit made it so much easier to land big, impactful arrows and barrels. And it was just essentially, it was literally shooting fish in a barrel for Riddle in that Baron pit. They barely needed to aim to get the damage down in that team fight. And as you said, once that damage has been initially done, it's so easy for then Riddle to just take over these team fights, and that's what they did. So massive congratulations to Riddle. They played it so well. Gilbug, sorry, I was a bit slow on the cast. Hopefully next one will be fine. We're going to go to a break. When we're back, we should have an interview and the rest of the analyst desk to break it down.